Night fell over Jiangqing, and the city's restless soul began to stir. I found myself at Lu's Bar, a place famous for its high-energy crowds and infamous for being a breeding ground for one-night stands. I wasn't there to pick anyone up, though. I was just a jobless drifter looking for a drink to drown out the boredom. I sat in a dim corner, pulled a pack of Hongtashan cigarettes from my pocket, and flicked the bottom with my thumb. A single cigarette popped out. I lit it, took a long drag, and watched the smoke swirl in front of my face. With my messy, slightly curled black hair and a faint, crooked smile, I looked every bit the slacker I was. That's when I saw it. At a booth not far away, a man was sneakily dropping a pill into a woman's drink. She didn't notice. She took a sip, and within minutes, she collapsed. I cursed under my breath. If you can't get a girl on your own merits, you're trash. I usually mind my own business, but I couldn't just sit there and watch this happen. A group of guys with ridiculous, colorful hair picked her up to leave. As they walked past me, I got a good look at her. She was dressed like a professional, a black and white office outfit with a tight skirt that hugged her curves and long, elegant legs ending in black heels. Her face was hidden by her messy black hair, but her silhouette alone told me she was a beauty. "What are you looking at?" A guy with a red mohawk barked at me. He looked arrogant as hell. "This one's mine. Keep staring, and I'll gouge your damn eyes out. Get lost." I didn't get lost. I stood up and blocked their path. I didn't know this woman, but my conscience wouldn't let me walk away. The guy turned red with rage. He poked my chest hard with his finger. "Are you deaf? I told you to move." "I'd advise you to stop poking me," I said, my eyes narrowing. "Oh, not only am I going to poke you, I'm going to break you." He swung a heavy punch at my face. "Die, you son of a bitch." I let out a cold laugh. I reached out and caught his fist midair like it was nothing. He smelled like cheap booze and pure malice. "Let go, or you're leaving here in an ambulance," he screamed. "You know what I hate most?" I asked. My voice was calm, but my eyes were like ice. "I hate being threatened." I twisted his wrist. A loud crack echoed through the bar. He let out a blood-curdling shriek, his face contorting in agony as he clutched his broken arm. "Kill him. Someone kill this bastard." Another guy with a mohawk pulled a dagger and lunged at me. "You're dead, kid." I didn't even blink. Before he could react, I stripped the blade from his hand. He stared at his empty palm, confused. "Where's my knife?" "Right here," I said, spinning the blade. "Let me show you how to actually use one." The steel flashed in the dim light. Swish, swish, swish. The guy froze, feeling the cold air against his scalp. He closed his eyes, trembling. When I finished, I blew the stray hairs off the blade. "There, much better than that mess you had before." He rubbed his head. "My hair. You shaved it all off." I grinned and buried my foot in his stomach. He doubled over, gasping for air, and collapsed unconscious. The leader, seeing his buddy go down, tried to kick me. I caught his leg easily and delivered a sharp, brutal kick straight to his crotch. The scream he let out silenced the entire bar. Every man in the room winced, feeling a sympathetic chill between their legs. Only one guy was left standing, still holding the unconscious woman. He was literally shaking so hard, he'd wet his pants. I beckoned him over with a smirk. "Your turn. You still want to fight?" "No. No way." He shoved the woman toward me and bolted for the exit. "Hey, is that any way to treat a lady?" I caught her as she fell. My hand landed somewhere, very soft. She let out a soft, melodic moan and leaned into me, her body reacting to the drugs in her system. She started trying to kiss me right there in the middle of the bar. "Whoa, slow down," I muttered, pushing her back slightly. "One more thing to do." I grabbed a bottle of liquor and hurled it at the guy running away. It caught him square in the back of the head. He hit the floor hard and didn't move. With the trash cleared out, the woman grabbed my neck again, her eyes hazy and desperate. I'm a healthy man. Having a beautiful woman throw herself at me like this was testing my limits. "Fine," I sighed. "You asked for it. Let's go find a room." The next morning, I woke up in a budget hotel. Sunlight peeked through the curtains. I reached out, but the side of the bed was empty. Then I saw her. She was standing by the window, a woman's cigarette between her slim fingers. In the morning light, she was breathtaking. A perfect face that would make celebrities jealous and skin like porcelain. But her expression was cold. Frozen. Beautiful. I thought you'd left. I joked, sitting up. Yang Ruabing, that was her name, crushed her cigarette and looked at me with icy eyes. Get up. I'm naked, I pointed out. I said get up. She pulled a pair of sharp scissors from her LV bag. I broke into a cold sweat. Well, let's be adults here. We had a good time. Why the scissors? Put those down. She ignored me, stepped forward, and used the scissors to cut a small, blood-stained circle out of the white bedsheet. She tucked the fabric into her bag. My jaw dropped. She had been a virgin? Last night, she had been so aggressive that I just assumed she was experienced. I couldn't believe a woman like her, found in a place like Lou's bar, was giving away her first time to a stranger like me. She reached into her wallet and threw 10 100 yuan bills onto the bed. Take this. Treat last night like a dream. Wait, what is this for? I'm not a gigolo. I felt like spitting blood. The money is yours. Whether you keep it is up to you. She turned and walked out before I could say another word. What a strange woman, I muttered, quickly getting dressed. I couldn't let it in like that. I grabbed the money and chased after her. I caught up to her outside the hotel, but she wasn't alone. A man in an expensive suit was grabbing her arm. Ruabing, where were you? Our wedding is tomorrow. You're driving me crazy. I went to a bar, she said, her voice flat. And then I went to a hotel with a stranger. The man, Zhang Zijian, looked like he'd been hit by a train. You cheated on me? Why? Because I don't want to marry you, she replied coldly. Your grandfather promised you to me. You have no choice. He was screaming now, his face contorting with rage. Look at me, Zijian. I'm not clean anymore. Do you still want me? She sounded almost triumphant. I realized then that she'd used me to sabotage an arranged marriage. She was the owner of a small company, being squeezed by her powerful family to marry this jerk. Zhang Zijian lost it. He raised his hand to slap her. You shameless bitch. Tell me who he is. I'll kill him. I stepped in and caught his wrist. I think I'm the bastard you're looking for, I said with a grin. You? Yeah. I slept with your fiancé last night. Sorry about the green hat, buddy. Zhang Zijian lunged at me, but I caught his fist again. We're all civilized people here, I said, before driving my knee into his stomach. As he wheezed, I grabbed his collar and slapped him across the face, once for the lady, and once for me. Enough, Yang Ruabing said, looking worried. You'll kill him. Fine. I picked him up, opened a nearby trash can, and stuffed him inside. I slammed the lid shut. Do you know who he is? She asked, her brow furrowed. He's a Zhang. They have a lot of power in Jiangqing. You might not see tomorrow's sun. I acted terrified. Oh no. What should I do? Come with me, she sighed. I'll find a way to get you out of the city before they find you. 30 minutes later, we arrived at her villa. It was massive and elegantly decorated. Nice place, I said, looking around. You live here all alone? It was my father's. I live here with my cousin, she said, her voice returning to its usual coldness. Now, stop asking questions. We need to get you moving. I was just curious, I said, rubbing my nose and offering a sheepish grin. No need to get defensive. You'll stay here for now, Yang Ruabing replied, her voice cooling back to its professional edge. When the time is right, I'll smuggle you out of Jiangqing. I leaned back, a mischievous smirk playing on my lips. A beautiful woman and a lone man under one roof? Aren't you afraid of me? She didn't blink. Instead, she reached into her bag and pulled out those sharp tailor scissors again. She snapped the blades together with a menacing snip-snip. I live on the second floor. You stay on the first. If you take one step up those stairs, I'll make sure you can never bother a woman again. Hey, it was just a joke. I laughed nervously, raising my hands in surrender. Don't take it seriously. My name is Yang Ruabing, she said, putting the scissors away. Stop calling me beautiful woman. It's vulgar. Can I call you Bing Bing then? She looked at me like I was a bug. I sighed. Fine, Ruabing. Put the scissors away. You're going to give someone a heart attack. Boring, she muttered. She turned and walked toward the stairs. Her silhouette was slender and elegant, moving with the grace of a goddess. I watched her go, a bitter smile on my face. A one-night stand with a cold CEO who happened to be a virgin, and now I was living in her house. Life was getting unpredictable. If only she were a little warmer, this would be a dream come true. An hour later, Ruobing came downstairs. She had changed into a sharp, professional OL suit. Her makeup was flawless, matte skin, sharp eyeliner, and an icy demeanor that screamed, powerful boss. "I'm going to work," she said, her expression neutral. "Don't go wandering off." "Got it," I said, shrugging. I felt like a kept man. A few minutes later, I heard the roar of her Audi Q7 as she pulled out of the driveway. The car was bold and aggressive, just like her. I spent the next few hours bored out of my mind, watching movies in the villa. Suddenly, a commotion broke out at the front gate. "Yang Ruobing, you bitch. Get out here right now," a man screamed. I stood up and stretched. "Who's making all that noise?" I walked outside and saw a familiar face. As soon as he saw me, he pointed a trembling finger, his face turning purple. "Damn it, you're actually here. Do we know each other?" I asked, genuinely surprised. "Fuck you. You slapped me across the face this morning, and now you're acting like you don't know me." Zhang Zijian's face was still swollen. He looked like he was about to explode. He had come here to demand an explanation from Ruobing, but finding the other man, here was the last straw. "Oh," I said, the realization hitting me. I grinned. "It's you. Did you need something?" "Zhang Hai, this is the brat who hit me." Zhang Zijian barked at the man standing beside him. "Break both of his hands." Now, a man in his 40s stepped forward. He was a mountain of a man, nearly 6'3", with a square jaw and the disciplined air of a retired Special Forces soldier. He looked me up and down, his eyes filled with disdain. "I am Zhang Hai. I don't fight nobodies. Give me your name, kid." "Lin Yuan," I said. "Never heard of you. You messed with the wrong family today. Is that so?" I beckoned him forward with a finger. "If you want to fight, then come on." Zhang Hai's eyes flashed with killing intent. He lunged forward, throwing a heavy punch aimed straight for my chest. It was a solid move with plenty of power behind it. "Not bad," I muttered. I stepped back half a pace, letting the fist whistle past my shirt. Zhang Hai froze for a split second. That punch had been perfect in terms of speed and timing. How had I dodged it so easily? "Zhang Hai, kill him already." Zhang Zijian screamed from the sidelines. Zhang Hai gritted his teeth and unleashed a flurry of blows. Bang, bang, bang. He forced me back with a relentless offensive. Zhang Zijian was cheering now, pumping his fist in the air. I kept dodging. Every time a fist aimed for my face, I moved just enough to let it pass. After a minute of high-intensity striking, Zhang Hai was gasping for air, sweat pouring down his face. I hadn't even broken a sweat. "Lin Yuan, if you respect me as a fighter, use your full strength." Zhang Hai roared. "Stop playing with me." "What?" Zhang Zijian gasped. He's playing?" I let the playful smirk fade. My gaze sharpened, turning cold and predatory like a hawk. "Since you asked so nicely, here I come." I stepped forward. It was a simple, straight punch. It looked slow, but it carried the weight of a freight train. Zhang Hai's brain couldn't even process the movement. Crack. My fist slammed into the bridge of his nose. He let out a blood-curdling scream as he was sent flying backward. He crashed into a parked car, the windshield shattering into a spiderweb of glass. He was out cold. Zhang Zijian's jaw hit the floor. His legs turned to jelly. As I took a step toward him, a yellow puddle began to form around his shoes. He had literally wet himself. "Young Master Zhang," I said, my voice eerily calm. "Are you afraid of me?" Don't come any closer," he stammered, his face pale as a ghost. "I'm a Zhang. If you touch me, my family will never let you go." I leaned in, letting the coldness in my eyes sink into his soul. "If the Zhang family pisses me off, I'll wipe them off the map. Believe me." He didn't say a word. He turned and bolted toward the gate, stumbling like a wounded animal. "You just wait. I'll be back." Threatening me even while running away? I picked up a brick from the garden path and weighed it in my hand. Then, with a flick of my wrist, I launched it like a cannonball. A second later, a scream echoed from down the road. The brick had found its mark, splitting his head open. I dusted off my hands and pulled out my phone. I dialed a number I hadn't called in a long time. "Hello? Boss?" a trembling voice answered. "Old Zhang," I said. "Is your son named Zhang Zijian?" "Yes, did he do something?" "We had a little disagreement. I had to rough him up a bit. You don't mind, do you?" That brat offended you. Boss, I don't mind at all. Thank you for teaching him a lesson. I'm grateful. I laughed and hung up. A few minutes later, the bleeding Zhang Zijian called his father, crying for help. Dad, someone broke my head. You have to help me. Help you? You idiot. Do you know why my leg is limp? His father roared through the phone. No. Lin Yuan broke it 10 years ago. You messed with him? You're trying to get us all killed. Zhang Zijian froze. His father's leg was broken 10 years ago. Lin Yuan was only 26 now. That meant he was breaking bones at 16. What kind of monster had he provoked? Around noon, Ruobing's Audi pulled back into the villa. She looked stressed. You're back, beautiful, I greeted her. She sat down, looking thoughtful. The Zhang family called off the engagement. I smirked. I knew exactly why. Old Zhang was terrified. But I wasn't going to tell her that. I wanted a quiet life now. My past was supposed to stay in the past. That's good, right? You're free, I said. No, she sighed. My family is in a financial crisis. They need an alliance. If it's not Zhang Zijian, it'll be someone else. Li Zijian, Lin Zijian. There's always another one. She stopped and looked at me intensely. What? Why are you looking at me like that? I need to get married. To you. I nearly fell off my chair. Wait. It was just a one-night stand. I'm a free man. I can't just get hitched. Is marrying me that insulting? Her icy mask cracked, a hint of genuine anger showing. She knew she was beautiful, and here I was, acting like she was a burden. She took a deep breath. Listen, it's a fake marriage. We won't interfere in each other's lives. You just need to show the certificate to my grandfather. I'll pay you 500,000 a year. After 1 year, we divorce. Deal. Deal. I said instantly. She blinked, realizing I had been waiting for the money. You're very cunning. Hey, 500 grand is 500 grand. By 3 p.m., we were walking out of the Civil Affairs Bureau with 2 little red booklets. We were officially husband and wife. Well, wife, I teased. Your husband is going to work hard to provide for us. Her face flushed a light pink. Don't call me that in public. The marriage is fake. Then let's go back inside and divorce right now, I said, shrugging. If I can't even call my wife wife, what's the point? She bit her lip, trembling with rage. Fine. You can call me that, but only at home. Works for me. So, when do I get my 500,000? You're going to work at my company, she said with a small, triumphant smile. I'll pay you back over the next 3 years through your salary. My jaw dropped. 3 years? That's like a regular job. You tricked me. So what? We're legally married now. She walked toward her car, looking more satisfied than I'd ever seen her. I stood there, stunned, then slowly pulled out a cigarette. I took a long drag, watching the smoke drift. I wanted a peaceful life. Maybe this was it. Hey, what are you standing there for? Ruobing called out. She was looking at me curiously, as if she sensed the sudden weight in my posture. I shook off the melancholy and flashed my usual grin. I was just wondering if we're having a wedding night tonight. Wifey. Pervert, she snapped. She hopped into her car and slammed the door. Before I could even reach the handle, she floored it. Hey, wait. I don't have any money for a taxi. Wifey. I ended up walking all the way back. By the time I reached the villa at 6 p.m., I was exhausted. Ruobing was on the couch, calmly watching a movie. You're heartless, I panted. I almost died out there. You're here, aren't you? She said without looking up. My cousin is coming over. We're going out to dinner. Is she pretty? She shot me a warning look. Don't even think about it. I'm a man of principle, I argued. Besides, why go out? We're trying to save money so you can pay me back, right? I'll cook. You can cook. She looked genuinely surprised. I'm a master in the kitchen and a heater in the bed. Want to try both? Just the kitchen, she said coldly. 30 minutes later, the house was filled with a mouth-watering aroma. Ruobing's nose twitched. She looked toward the kitchen just as the front door swung open. Cousin, what smells so good? A bright voice called out. Kiki, you're back, Ruobing said, her expression softening slightly. Just as we were talking, a girl in a sailor-style school uniform bounced into the living room, a lollipop tucked in her cheek. She had a cute mushroom haircut, rosy cheeks, and just enough baby fat to make her look like an adorable doll. Her big, watery eyes sparkled with mischief. Cousin, you didn't answer me. Where's that smell coming from? she asked, her voice bright. Then she spotted the kitchen and gasped. Wait, did you hire a professional chef? He's not a chef, he's... Ruabing started to explain, but I walked out at that exact moment, holding a steaming plate of stir-fried shredded pork and potatoes. The girl blinked at me, confused. Cousin, who is this old guy? Ruabing hesitated for a heartbeat. We were living under the same roof. There was no way to hide the truth for long. He's your brother-in-law. The girl's mouth fell open. The lollipop slipped right out and hit the floor, but she didn't even notice. She just stared at me like I was an alien. Brother-in-law? Yes, Ruabing said firmly. I married him today. Oh my God, weren't you supposed to marry Zhang Zijin tomorrow? Why did the groom change? He called it off, Ruabing said, glancing at me as if signaling me to play along. And I found the person I truly belong with. I caught the hint immediately. That's right, little cousin. Your sister and I are madly in love. The girl looked skeptical. I've never even heard of you before. Oh, that's because your sister had a massive crush on me back in school, I said, keeping a perfectly straight face. I finally came back, and she insisted on marrying me. Right, Ruabing. I caught the flash of fury in Ruabing's eyes. Her fist clenched tight for a second before she forced a smile. Yes, I practically begged him to marry me. Whoa, cousin, you're so bold. The girl laughed, her eyes wide with shock. I never knew you had it in you. Stop talking nonsense, Ruabing snapped, trying to change the subject. Go wash your hands. It's time to eat. Food. Finally. The girl, whose name was Lin Kiki, was clearly a foodie. She skipped toward the kitchen like a happy bird. As soon as she was out of earshot, Ruabing turned on me. What was that? I had a crush on you. Hey, I was just joking. Don't take it so seriously, I said, rubbing my nose. Don't make those kinds of jokes again, she warned. I just shrugged. If she wanted to play the cold CEO, I was going to have my fun. Dinner was a hit. Kiki couldn't stop praising my cooking, telling Ruabing how lucky she was to have a personal chef for a husband. Half an hour later, Kiki leaned back, patting her stomach with a satisfied sigh. Cousin, you didn't just find a husband. You found a master chef. 10 out of 10. Ruabing wiped her lips elegantly. Even the way she held a napkin looked like a work of art. Oh wait. Kiki suddenly realized something. She looked at me with a mischievous grin. Since you guys are married now, I can't sleep in your room anymore, right? Brother-in-law would get angry. Why would I be angry? I chuckled. Your cousin told me I'm sleeping. Suddenly, I felt a sharp kick under the table. Ruabing glared at me before turning to Kiki. Your brother-in-law is sleeping with me. You'll stay on the first floor from now on. Kiki pouted, clearly not thrilled about moving, but she didn't argue. After I finished the dishes, Kiki disappeared into her room to play games. The living room was empty. So, wifey, I whispered with a wicked grin. Are we really sleeping together tonight? Do you want her to get suspicious? Ruabing hissed. Of course we are. I couldn't help but smirk. This was getting interesting. What are you smiling at? She asked defensively. Nothing. Did I smile? Yes. You look like a con artist. By 11 p.m., Ruabing stood up and headed upstairs without a word. I stayed on the couch, glued to the TV. What are you doing? Come up, she called out. It sounded like an invitation, but her voice was cold enough to freeze water. Coming, wifey. As we headed up, Keek's door cracked open. She peeked out, a devious look on her face. Hee hee, my cousin is so cold. I wonder what their wedding night sounds like. Time to eavesdrop. Inside Ruabing's room, everything was white. White furniture, white walls. It matched her icy personality perfectly. The air smelled faintly of jasmine. It was actually quite relaxing. I walked over and flopped onto the giant, soft bed, stretching my arms out. Get up, Ruabing said, her eyes turning cold. Wife, we agreed to sleep together. Why am I getting up? Who said you're sleeping on the bed? I am. You're on the floor. The floor? On our wedding night. Have you no heart? I protested. I have plenty of heart. Get off. I'm not moving. 1-2. She reached into a drawer and pulled out a pair of sharp tailor's scissors. I bolted off the bed instantly. Whoa, put those down. That's attempted murder. Vulgar, she muttered, tucking the scissors away. I sighed and looked at the floor. Luckily, there was a thick wool rug. It wasn't a bed, but it wasn't the worst thing I'd ever slept on. Just as I was settling in, I heard faint footsteps outside the door. They stopped right at the entrance. Someone's listening, I whispered. Ruabing frowned. What? I pointed to the gap under the door. We could see a faint shadow. It's your cousin. She's spying on us. Ruabing sighed, looking annoyed. She's so restless. She must suspect something. What do we do? I asked. You tell me. I grinned. Let's give her a show. We need to make it sound real. What do you mean? I leaned in and whispered. We need to make some noises. Then I started making a few fake, exaggerated grunts. You pervert. Ruabing turned bright red. I am not doing that. Look, if we don't make it convincing, she'll tell your grandfather. You want to be forced into another marriage? She bit her lip. Fine. What do I do? Just follow my lead. Make it loud. I started shaking the bed frame and making more noise. Come on, Ruabing. Let it out. She hesitated, then let out a stiff, awkward moan. Better. More passion. I teased. She was so embarrassed she grabbed a pillow and started beating me with it. You jerk. Take this. Ow. Easy. Not so hard. I yelled, dodging her blows. Outside the door, Keek's eyes were wide. Oh my God. Cousin is so aggressive. Poor brother-in-law is going to have a rough life. Satisfied that she'd heard enough action, she giggled and hurried back to her room. Inside, I caught the pillow and laughed. She's gone. Lights out. Ruabing threw the pillow at me, killed the lights, and went to sleep. Hey, at least give me a blanket. I called out. No. I felt like the most pathetic groom in history. But in the middle of the night, I felt something soft drape over me. I opened one eye and saw Ruabing quietly tucking a blanket around my shoulders before she hurried back to bed. I smiled to myself. Maybe she wasn't so cold after all. The next morning, the sun woke me up. Ruabing was already at her vanity, putting on makeup. She looked stunning, her red lipstick popping against her pale skin. Morning, wife, I yawned. She replied, focused on her reflection. Thanks for the blanket last night. You're actually pretty sweet. I just didn't want you catching a cold and infecting me, she said coldly. Sure. I knew she was just being stubborn. There are clothes in the closet. Change. You're coming to work with me today. I got dressed, a crisp white shirt and a black suit. When I walked downstairs, Kiki gasped. Whoa, brother-in-law. You actually look handsome in a suit. I look good in everything, I joked. Ruabing glanced at me, her expression unreadable. The clothes fit. Of course they do. My wife has great taste. Kiki leaned in, winking at me. So, you guys were pretty loud last night. You're young, but try to control yourselves, okay? I nearly choked on my coffee. Eat your breakfast, kid. An hour later, Ruabing was driving us to the office in her Audi Q7. Listen, she said, her voice serious. At the company, you are not to call me wife. No one can know we are married. Got it. Secret agent mode, on. A few blocks from the office, she pulled over. Get out here. If people see you getting out of my car, they'll talk. Just walk the rest of the way and act like you're here for an interview. She handed me a business card. Fine. I'm a great actor. I started walking. A few minutes later, near a bus stop, a shady-looking guy suddenly sprinted past me, clutching a woman's purse. Thief. Someone stop him, a voice screamed. A woman in a sharp professional suit came running off the bus. She was gorgeous, tall, wearing stylish glasses, and looking very frantic as she struggled to run in high heels. In broad daylight, I muttered, not on my watch. The thief ran straight toward me. Move, he barked. I stepped aside, but as he passed, I stuck my foot out. He tripped hard, flying face first into a metal railing. I heard his teeth crack. He dropped the purse, groaning in pain. You little brat. I'll kill you, he hissed, clutching his bleeding mouth. He saw the woman closing in and decided to bolt. He wasn't getting away that easily. I picked up a rock from the ground and hurled it with perfect aim. It caught him right in the back of the head. He let out a sharp cry, blood pooling in his hair, and ran even faster. Run then, coward, I muttered. I picked up the purse and turned around just as the woman reached me. She was moving too fast to stop. Her heel caught on the pavement, and she tumbled right into my arms. Whoa, I got you, I said, reaching out to steady her. The second I touched her, she shrieked and jumped back like she'd been electrocuted. Her face was bright red, her eyes burning with anger. You pervert. pervert. I just saved your purse and caught you. Is that how you catch people? She snapped, pointing at where my hands had landed. I froze. Maybe in the rush of the moment, I had grabbed a bit more than I intended. The hand feel was actually pretty great. Look, it was an accident. I was just trying to help. Accident. Likely story. She snatched the purse out of my hand and stormed off. I stood there, staring at my hand. Great. First day on the job, and I'm already a registered creep. 20 minutes later, I arrived at a standard-looking office building and found the suite number from the business card. This should be it, I muttered to myself before pushing the door open. I gave the door a polite knock. Hello? I'm here for an interview. Is Manager Yang in? A chubby woman, maybe in her late 20s, walked up to me. Oh, you're the applicant? Follow me. Thanks, I said with a friendly smile, following her into a private office. Manager Yang, someone is here for the interview, she announced. Yang Ruobing barely looked up from her desk. Her expression was calm, professional, and totally detached. I know. You can head back to work. Once the door clicked shut and we were alone, I took a good look around. Not bad, wife. Your office is actually pretty nice. Ruobing's brow furrowed, and a flash of annoyance crossed her beautiful face. Yahello, did you already forget what you promised me? Right. Habit. Sorry, Manager Yang, I said, rubbing my nose with a sheepish grin. I don't want to hear it again, she snapped. My company mainly handles beauty product distribution. Have you ever worked in sales? She stopped what she was doing and stared at me, waiting for a serious answer. Sales? How hard can it be? I started bragging without a second thought. It's just chasing leads and drinking with clients. That's my specialty. She didn't look impressed, but she picked up her desk phone anyway. I'll have someone help you with the onboarding paperwork. A moment later, there was a knock at the door. A woman with a killer figure and a very pretty face walked in. She froze the second she saw me. She looked at me, then looked away, then looked back again, her eyes wide with confusion. Manager Yang, you needed me? Zhaoying asked, though her eyes were still glued to me. This is a new colleague. Help him with his paperwork. Yahello, go with her. Got it, I said, nodding. But when I turned around to face the girl, my heart nearly stopped. No way. It couldn't be this much of a coincidence. You pervert. Zhaoying screamed the moment she got a clear look at my face. Ruobing's eyebrows shot up. You two know each other. Manager Yang, this is the creep I told you about. Zhao Ying's face was flushed with pure rage. You can't hire him. It's like letting a wolf into the sheepfold. Whoa, hey, beautiful, you can eat whatever you want, but you can't just say whatever you want, I shot back. What pervert? I was just trying to catch you so you wouldn't fall. Catch me? Who catches someone by putting their hands right on their chest? She yelled, hands on her hips. You were clearly taking advantage of me. Ruobing's eyes turned ice cold as she shifted her gaze to me. Yahello, care to explain? Wife, I mean boss. Don't listen to her. I really was just trying to help her up. I almost slipped up. Liar. You were just trying to feel me up. Zhaoying huffed. Seeing how upset Zhaoying was, Ruobing had to play peacemaker. She had promised me 500,000, and if I didn't work, she'd have to just hand it over for nothing. I think there might be a misunderstanding, Ruobing said calmly. Just process his paperwork for now. If he doesn't work out during his probation, I'll fire him. But Manager Yang, Zhaoying started, looking completely unsatisfied. Just listen to me. 3 months probation. Zhaoying let out a frustrated sigh. She glared at me, her eyes practically shooting sparks. Follow me. I gave her a cheeky grin and followed her out. Behind us, I heard Ruobing let out a soft sigh and mutter, he really is a disaster. Half an hour later, I was officially an employee. The funniest part? My desk was right next to Zhao Ying's. She looked like she wanted to quit on the spot. I quickly learned that the company was small. Only 6 people, including Ruobing. 4 women and 2 men. The other guy was named Yang Daong, a graduate from a top-tier university. After a quick round of introductions, I got bored. I pulled up a card game on my computer and started playing like I didn't have a care in the world. Zhaoying couldn't take it anymore. She couldn't believe I was being this bold on my first day. She spun around in her chair, looking furious. Yahello, you just got here and you're already playing games? Do you think you own this place? Actually, my wife does, I thought with a smug grin. but I kept that to myself. The boss hasn't said anything, so why are you complaining? You, aren't you afraid I'll tell on you? I'd be surprised if you didn't. Fine, don't act so tough. I'm going right now. She stomped her foot, her chest heaving with anger, and marched straight into Ruobing's office. A few minutes later, she walked back, biting her lip and looking completely baffled. I gave her a little wink. So, did the boss fire me? Humph, don't get cocky. When you fail to bring in any business, you're dead meat, she snapped. She was clearly wondering why Ruobing, who was usually so strict, was letting me slide. Don't worry. When I land a big deal, I'll take you out for a massive dinner. In your dreams. I wouldn't eat with you if you were the last man on earth, she sneered. But she wasn't done with me yet. A devious look crossed her face. Hey, Yahello, since you're so free, help me deliver these documents to Manager Zhang in the building across the street. Her office is on the 58th floor. I'm a salesman, not a delivery boy. Pass. Zhaoying choked on her words for a second before smirking. What would it take for you to go? Unless you agree to a date tonight. I joked. A date? Fine. But on one condition. You have to get these to Manager Zhang within 15 minutes. If you're late, the date is off. I looked at the building across the street. With an elevator, I could hit the 58th floor in a few minutes. Deal, I said, grabbing the files and running out the door. As soon as I was gone, Zhaoying burst out laughing. You pervert, the elevators over there are broken. Have fun climbing 58 flights of stairs. 9 minutes and 48 seconds later, I walked back into the office. When Zhaoying saw me, she assumed I had seen the broken elevators and given up. Yahello, I told you Manager Zhang needs those files urgently. Why are you back already? I delivered them, I said, shrugging. Liar. I don't believe you. Call her and ask. She actually picked up the phone. A few seconds later, her face went completely pale. Manager Zhang confirmed the files were in her hand. Zhaoying stared at me like I was a monster. The elevators were dead. Even if I ran, how could I go up 58 floors and come back in under 10 minutes? Files delivered, I said with a wicked grin. Remember our promise? She was speechless. Oh, you're going to back out? You're not that kind of person, are you? Who's backing out? She snapped, biting her lip. It's just a date. It's not like you're going to eat me. So you're saying yes? Yes, I'll go on a date with you tonight. Oh, that's a shame, I said, looking totally relaxed. I'm busy tonight. Maybe next time. She stomped her foot so hard the floor shook. Usually, men were lining up to date her, and here I was, rejecting her after she finally said yes. Nearby, Yang Dayong's eyes flashed with jealousy. He was a top-tier grad who only worked at this small company because he was obsessed with Zhaoying. He took a deep breath, put on his most charming gentleman smile, and walked over. Ing, I heard that new romance movie is great. I have 2 tickets. Want to go tonight? Zhaoying frowned. To be honest, Dayong was much better looking than me, but he always felt fake to her. Oh, that? I actually have plans tonight. Sorry. Dayong kept the smile on his face, but inside, he was boiling. Asterisk playing hard to get, huh? Just wait until I get you in bed. Asterisk. He turned his anger toward me. Since I was just a newbie, he decided to make my life hell. Yahello, here's a list of 50 potential clients. Call them and see if they want our new product. All of them, I asked. You're new, so I won't pressure you. Just close 5 deals. I managed 10 when I started, and that record still stands. You're not going to tell me you can't even do 5, are you? Dayong, don't be a jerk, Zhaoying cut in. You had experience in phone sales. Asking him for 5 on his first day is impossible. I was surprised she stuck up for me, but I wasn't about to back down. Fine, let's see if I can break your record. Challenge me? Heh, Dayong sneered. I picked up the phone, dialed the first number, and hit the speakerphone. Hello? Who is this? A woman's voice answered. She sounded exhausted, like she'd just woken up from a bad nap. Hello, is this Ms. Shunli? I'm Yahello from Chaojia Beauty. I wanted to ask what face mask you're currently using. Could I have 5 minutes of your time? I'm busy. No time, she snapped. Just 5 minutes, please? Are you sick in the head? I said I don't have time. Stop bothering me. She screamed. Dayong smirked, ready to watch me fail. Even Zhaoying sighed, thinking the deal was dead. But then, I said something that shocked everyone. Actually, I think you're the one who's sick. The office went silent. Daeong was practically vibrating with joy. Asterisk, he's dead. He just insulted a client. Asterisk. What? Did you just call me sick? The woman's voice shrilled, though she sounded a bit weak. Ms. Shun, don't misunderstand. I mean your body is sick. If I'm not wrong, you've lost your appetite lately. You feel bloated after eating, you get dizzy, your voice is weak, and your complexion is dull and yellowish, right? There was a long silence on the other end. How did you know that? I could hear the lack of qi in your voice. In Chinese medicine, we call it middle qi deficiency. If you don't treat it, it accelerates aging. The word aging hit her like a freight train. What should I do? I gave her some simple dietary advice and told her a specific acupressure point to massage on her lower back. It'll work better than supplements, I said confidently. Gosh, Yahello, are you selling masks or medicine? How do you know so much? She was laughing now, her mood completely flipped. She ended up buying the product just because she liked talking to me. When I hung up, Zhaoing was beaming. Wow, you're actually good at this. But wait, were you just bullshitting her? Haha, you caught me. I knew it. I just shrugged. It didn't matter. A deal was a deal. Nobody in that office knew that I was actually the 9th-generation successor of the Saint sect. But all that past glory was behind me. I just wanted a quiet life. But the quiet didn't last. Over the next 10 minutes, I closed 19 more deals. 20 in total. The whole office exploded. Yahello, you're a legend. A natural-born salesman. I glanced at Daeong, whose face was twitching with suppressed rage. Sorry, Brother Yang. I accidentally broke your record. Yahello, if you really know medicine, look at him. The chubby girl joked, pointing at Daeong. What's wrong with him? I squinted at Daeong for a second. Well, he's definitely got problems. You're the one with problems. Daeong barked. Have you been feeling moody lately? Hard to control your temper? Dizzy? Anxious? Daeong turned pale. How did you know? Your breath is uneven. You should probably cut back on the nightlife and save your strength, I said with a smirk. What does that mean? Zhaoing asked. The chubby girl burst out laughing. It means he's got a kidney deficiency. Too much partying. Daeong looked like he wanted to crawl into a hole and die, especially with Zhaoing watching. He glared at me one last time before storming off. That evening, I took a taxi back to the villa. Ruobing was on the couch, looking as cold and beautiful as ever. I sat down, kicked my feet up, and started munching on an apple. I heard you closed 20 deals today, she said without looking at me. Yep, pretty impressive, right? It's acceptable. I was getting used to my Ice Queen wife. But then, a black BMW pulled into the driveway. A young man hopped out, looking incredibly arrogant. Yang Ruobing. Get out here, he shouted. Who's that? I asked. My cousin, she said, her face darkening as she headed for the door. A moment later, I heard them shouting at each other outside. Yang Ruobing, you ungrateful wolf. The roar echoed through the driveway. It was Yang Chaofan, Ruobing's cousin. He was pointing a finger at her, his face twisted with rage. The family paid for your education, and now that you think you have wings, you dare to go against us? You have to give the Zhang family an explanation for the cancelled wedding. Ruobing didn't even blink. Her expression remained icy. If the Zhang family backed out, you should ask them, not me, she said calmly. Grandfather said the problem is you. Chaofan sneered. Even if you don't marry into the Zhang family today, there will be others. I suggest you come back with me quietly before things get ugly. That's impossible, Ruobing replied, her eyes narrowing. Why? Because I'm already married. Chaofan froze. He looked like he'd been slapped. What? You married someone else? You sacrificed the family's interests for some random man? You're insane. For the first time, I saw a flicker of genuine anger on Ruobing's face. She'd been suppressing this for a long time. I'm not insane. I have the right to choose who I marry. I won't be a pawn for the family's profit. Chaofan's face turned purple. Who was the bastard? Tell me. I'll chop him into pieces. Thwack. An apple flew through the air and slammed right into Chaofan's face. It shattered into sticky pieces, leaving him with a rapidly darkening bruise around his eye. Damn it. Who did that? Show yourself, he screamed, clutching his face. I stepped out of the villa, looking as bored as possible. Where did this mad dog come from, barking in my yard? Chaofan spun around, his eyes wide. Who the hell are you? Me? I let out a lazy yawn. You should probably call me brother-in-law. Chaofan looked at Ruobing, then back at me. This is the man. Yes, Ruobing said, her voice flat. Fine, fine, Chaofan hissed. Ruobing, you've lost your mind. Since this guy ruined our plans, I'll teach this trash a lesson he won't forget. He lunged at me, throwing a wild punch toward my face. I didn't even break a sweat and reached out and caught his fist midair. I smiled and said, Someone didn't teach you manners, did they? Let go of me, Chaofan growled. He swung his other fist, putting all his weight behind it. I caught that one too. Now I had both his hands pinned. Let go right now, he shrieked. Sure, just apologize to your brother-in-law first. Go to hell. I'll never apologize. Is that so? I chuckled. I slowly increased the pressure, squeezing his knuckles together. The sound of grinding bone, asterisk crack, crack asterisk, filled the air. Chaofan's face went pale. Sweat poured down his forehead. He tried to stay tough for a few seconds, but the pain was too much. 5 seconds later, his face was beet red, and tears were streaming down his cheeks. I'm sorry. Brother-in-law, I was wrong. Please let go. I'm going to die. I snorted and shoved him away. He lost his balance and landed hard on his butt, yelping in pain. You too will regret this, he spat, scrambling to his feet and limping back to his BMW. TSK, too fast, I muttered. I should have broken his hand while I had the chance. I turned to Ruobing, expecting a thank you. Don't worry, honey. If anyone bullies my wife, I'll. She didn't even look at me. She just turned around and walked back into the house, her shoulders slumped. She looked defeated. I followed her inside. Usually, she'd be snapping at me, but she was silent. Want to hear a story? She asked suddenly. I shrugged. Sure. I've got time. She stared into the distance for a moment. Once, a wealthy young man fell in love with a lowly maid. The family found out and tore them apart. The maid was kicked out, but she was already pregnant with his child. A few years later, the man died of an illness. The maid raised the girl alone. She paused, her voice trembling slightly. When the girl was 15, the family found her and brought her back. All she wanted was to be independent, but the family only saw her as a tool. They tried to force her to marry a man she hated just for a business deal. She stopped talking. That's it? I asked. It sounds like a bad soap opera. Maybe, she whispered. But that girl is me. I looked at her. The cold, arrogant Seo suddenly looked very small. I felt a pang of sympathy I didn't expect. Well, I said, pulling out a cigarette and lighting it. You're actually lucky. Lucky? How? At least you know who your parents were, I said, blowing out a cloud of smoke. My own heart felt heavy for a second. I don't even know where I came from. Ruobing froze. She looked at me, seeing the sadness in my eyes. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to bring up bad memories. I suddenly grinned, my somber mood vanishing instantly. Just kidding. You actually believe that? Her face went from pity to pure rage in a heartbeat. She grabbed a vase from the table, her hands shaking. You jerk. Hey, that's more like it. I laughed, backing away. Don't be so gloomy. If anyone messes with you, your husband will handle it. Anyway, I just remembered I have, things to do. But I bolted out of the room before the vase could connect with my head. Behind me, I heard her scream my name, but I saw her put the vase back down out of the corner of my eye. She was almost smiling. Meanwhile, Chaofan was at a hotel, fuming. He grabbed his phone and dialed a long-distance number. Grandfather, it's a disaster. Ruobing got married. What? The old man on the other end roared. Tell me everything. Chaofan twisted the story, making it sound like Ruobing was a traitor. She's throwing the family's reputation away for some thug. We have to do something. Should I have him killed? First, we crush her company, the old man growled. Then we deal with the man. Destroy them both. Understood, Chaofan smirked. Their good days were over. The next day at the office, Yang Daong, the guy I'd humiliated earlier, was acting strange. He was all smiles as he approached Ruobing. President Yang, I've secured a huge lead. A big client wants to buy our new skincare line. It's a $50,000 deal. Ruobing looked up, surprised. Really? Let me see the files. She scanned the documents. It looked legit. This company has a good reputation. If we land this, it'll be a huge boost. What's the next step? The owner, Mr. Lin, wants to discuss the details in person, Daeong said, his eyes gleaming. Tonight at 7. The Royal Hotel, Mountain Suite. Are you free? I'll be there, Ruobing said. Daeong turned to leave, a sinister smile crossing his face. A few minutes later, he slipped into the bathroom and made a call. Young Master Zhang? It's done. She's coming. He didn't realize I was in the stall right behind him. I finished my business and stepped out, adjusting my belt. Daeong, you sneaky rat. What are you up to? When the workday ended, I got a text from Ruobing. I'm going to a business meeting with Daeong. Don't wait for me for dinner. I didn't think much of it at first. At 7 o'clock, Ruobing and Daeong were in the hotel suite with a fat, middle-aged man named Mr. Lin. He was dripping with fake charm. President Yang, you're even more beautiful than the rumors say. Thank you, Mr. Lin, Ruobing said, keeping her distance. Mr. Lin is very interested in our products, Daeong chimed in. We should have a few drinks to celebrate the partnership. I'm driving, Ruobing said firmly. I don't drink. Mr. Lin's eyes flickered. Come on, just a little? No? Fine, fine. Have some juice instead. Daeong, go get the lady a glass of orange juice. Daeong nodded and left the room. In the hallway, he met a waiter and slipped him a small packet of powder. Put this in the juice. Now. Is this safe? The waiter whispered. Just do it. Young Master Zhang said your gambling debts will be wiped clean if this goes well. A few minutes later, the waiter brought the juice to the table. For our partnership, Mr. Lin cheered, raising his glass of Mao Dai. Ruobing took a polite sip of the juice. Within minutes, her face began to flush. Her head felt heavy, and the room started to spin. She gripped the edge of the table, her body swaying. Daeong, what did you do? Daeong dropped the act and laughed. I'm helping you, President Yang. Ruobing tried to speak, but her strength vanished. Her eyes rolled back, and she slumped over, unconscious. Heh. Zhang Xiao said the contract will be signed tomorrow, Daeong said to Mr. Lin. Thanks, Daeong. Or should I say, Manager Yang. Mr. Lin grinned, looking at Ruobing's unconscious body with hunger. Let's get her upstairs. Zhang Xiao is waiting in the presidential suite. They carried her out, making it look like she was just a drunk friend. They brought her to a room where Zhang Zijian, the man Ruobing was supposed to marry, was waiting. Young Master Zhang, she's all yours, Daeong said, bowing like a dog. Don't leave yet, Zijian said, his face twisting into something demonic. Wait until I'm finished. Then it's your turn. Zijian stared at Ruobing. He was filled with resentment. This woman had humiliated him by marrying a nobody. You bitch, he hissed. You dared to cheat on me? I'm going to make sure you're ruined. I have a bottle of wild girl medicine, Daeong suggested eagerly. Even the purest woman will turn into a mess once she drinks this. Do it, Zijian commanded. They forced the liquid down Ruobing's throat. The harsh taste woke her up slightly. She coughed, her eyes fluttering open. When she saw Zijian and Daeong standing over her, horror filled her heart. Zijian, you animal, she gasped, her voice weak. You should have thought about that before you betrayed me, Zijian laughed, stripping off his jacket. Tonight, I'm going to break you. I'd rather die. Ruobing screamed with the last of her strength. She tried to throw herself against the wall, hoping to end it all, but Daeong pinned her down. No escaping, President Yang, he sneered. Ruobing's vision began to blur. A terrifying heat was spreading through her body. The medicine was working. She felt her mind slipping away, replaced by a desperate, uncontrollable haze. She was trapped. I'm going to see exactly how this ice goddess acts when she's desperate, Zhang Zijian sneered, rubbing his hands together as he approached the bed. You'll burn in hell, Zhang Zijian. Ruobing screamed, but her voice was fading. The drug was taking hold, blurring her vision and stripping away her will. Suddenly, a deafening crash echoed through the room. The door was kicked open with such violence it nearly flew off its hinges. I stood in the doorway, a cigarette dangling from my lips, my face cold behind a veil of smoke. A room full of men bullying one woman? I asked, my voice flat. That's pathetic. The men froze, their eyes snapping toward me. Ruobing glanced up, and the moment she saw my silhouette, I saw the tension leave her body. She knew I had come. With that relief, she finally lost consciousness. You? How the hell are you here? Zhang Zijian stammered, his face turning pale. He knew exactly who I was, the man who had made him a laughingstock. I was just passing by. Believe me. I smiled, but there was no warmth in it. The truth was, I'd overheard Daeong talking in the restroom earlier that morning, when Ruobing texted me saying she was meeting Mr. Lin. My gut told me something was wrong. I had followed them, but I never expected Daeong to be low enough to drug his own boss for Zijian. I guess the last lesson didn't stick, I said, stepping into the room. I'll have to finish what your father started. Don't come any closer. Zijian backed away, his voice trembling. I'm a Zhang. If you touch a hair on my head, you're dead. Is that a threat? I let my killing intent leak out. The air in the room turned freezing. These were just pampered thugs. They couldn't handle the pressure. They looked like their hearts were about to pop out of their chests. No threat. Just a reminder. Zijian squeaked, trying to play nice. Thanks for the reminder, I said. Then, without warning, I lashed out. My foot buried itself into Zijian's chest. Crack. The sound of snapping ribs filled the room, followed by a scream that sounded like a dying pig. Zijian hit the floor, rolling in agony, his face turning a sickly shade of green. Daeong and Mr. Lin hovered nearby, terrified, too scared to help and too scared to run. I walked over to Zijian and looked down. I raised my boot and slammed it onto his right hand. Crunch, his fingers were pulverized. 5 bones snapped at once. Zijian's eyes nearly bulged out of his head. He couldn't even scream anymore. He just gasped for air, his face white as a sheet. Young Master Zhang, I whispered. Are you ever going to touch my woman again? No, never, please. He wheezed. I don't believe you. I raised my foot again and aimed straight for his crotch. Pop! It was a sickening sound, like a balloon bursting. Zijian's mouth hung open, his veins popping out of his neck like writhing worms. He clutched himself, curled into a ball, and mercifully blacked out from the pain. That was a line-ender kick. He wouldn't be having kids or doing anything else ever again. I turned my gaze to Daeong and Mr. Lin. They both hit the floor instantly, their knees knocking. Please, have mercy. We were stupid, they wailed. You're not even worth the dirt on my shoes, I spat. I sat on the edge of the bed and crossed my legs. But you did scare my wife. You need to make it right. Mr. Lin scrambled to open his wallet, trembling as he handed me a bank card. There's 200,000 yuan on here. The code is 6 zeros. Please, just take it. I took the card and looked at Daeong. And you? I don't have any money, Daeong stuttered. No money? Fine. Slap yourself until I'm satisfied. Harder, I barked. Daeong started hitting himself, his face turning red. Slap, slap, slap. He was dizzy, but I wasn't impressed. I grabbed his collar and delivered one solid backhand. He spun through the air, spitting out 2 teeth before hitting the floor. I picked up Ruobing, her body limp in my arms, and walked out without looking back. Mr. Lin watched me go, shaking so hard he probably wet himself. Back at the villa, I laid Ruobing on her bed. The drug was deep in her system. I pulled out a small, ancient wooden box containing silver needles. I unbuttoned the top of her blouse to reach the pressure points. Her skin was pale and soft, but I forced myself to focus. I wasn't here to look. I worked quickly, my hands moving in a blur. Within minutes, her skin turned a deep flush as the toxins were pushed out through her sweat. 10 minutes later, her breathing evened out. When she finally opened her eyes, she saw me sitting in a chair nearby. Lin Yuan? Thank you, she whispered. Don't mention it, I said, standing up. But be careful. You won't always be this lucky. She nodded, looking thoughtful. As I walked toward the door, I paused. By the way, pink looks good on you. She froze. Pink. She was wearing a white blouse. Then she looked down, saw her unbuttoned shirt, and her face turned a shade of red deeper than the drug ever could have caused. Lin Yuan, she screamed, throwing a pillow at the door as I slipped out, laughing. While we were safe, the storm was just beginning. At the hospital, Zhang Yishan, Zijian's father, stood outside the operating room. When the doctor told him his only son was now sterile, the man's face twisted into a mask of pure hatred. Lin Yuan, Ishan hissed, his fists white. You broke my legs, and now you've ended my family line. I will ruin you if it's the last thing I do. A few days later, things seemed back to normal at the office. One of our sales reps, Zhao Ying, managed to land a massive contract for a new line of whitening masks. The whole office was buzzing. Even Ruobing was smiling. Boss, you have to treat us to dinner for this. I shouted in the middle of the office. The rest of the staff joined in, cheering. Ruobing actually chuckled and agreed. But the celebration didn't last. A week later, the phone started ringing off the hook. Customers were calling in, screaming. The masks were causing severe allergic reactions. People's faces were breaking out in horrific rashes. The supplier, Manager Mo, his phone is off, Zhaoying cried, her face pale. It was a setup. Boss, there's a mob outside, a coworker yelled, running into the office. I walked to the front door. A group of angry men and women were trying to shove their way in, shouting for compensation. I stood in the doorway, my arms crossed, a human wall they couldn't budge. Give us our money back or we'll tear this place down. A burly man in a suit screamed. He looked like a businessman, but the way he moved, the coldness in his eyes, told a different story. He wasn't a victim, he was a thug. This wasn't just a business failure, it was a hit, and I knew exactly who sent him. The timing was too perfect. 1 minute our face masks are causing rashes, the next a mob is at our door demanding blood. Only a fool would call that a coincidence. I knew if I could handle the ringleaders, the rest of the crowd would lose their steam. But I had to be smart. If I just started swinging, I'd look like the aggressor and ruin the company's reputation for good. I decided to play it cool. I looked at the burly man leading the charge and sighed. Look, brother, why are you yelling at me? I'm not the boss. I'm just a guy trying to earn a paycheck. If you aren't the boss, then get the hell out of the way. The big man roared, stepping up into my space. I can't do that, I said, putting on my best innocent face. I work here. It's my job to stand here. You dare talk back to me? He was fuming now. He reached out to shove me, and the second his palm touched my chest, I acted. I threw myself backward like I'd been hit by a truck, stumbling back with a pained expression. To the crowd, it looked like he'd just assaulted a defenseless employee. Hey, I'm just a worker, I shouted, standing up and dusting myself off, looking hurt. Why are you getting violent? We're here to talk about money, not hurt people. The crowd's energy shifted instantly. People started whispering. He's right, the kid is just a worker. Why'd that guy hit him? The big man looked confused. I barely touched him. Barely touched me? I walked right back up to him. You're a bully, man. We're all victims here, but you're just looking for a fight. You little. He lost it. He grabbed me by the collar, his face turning purple. That was the opening I needed. He'd initiated the violence twice now. Since you think you're so tough, I muttered, have a seat. I didn't use my hands. I snapped a kick straight into his gut. The sound was like a heavy bag being hit with a sledgehammer. The man flew backward 5 feet, slammed into a wall, and crumpled to the floor, out cold. The silence that followed was heavy. I looked at the rest of the mob, my expression calm. I'm a peaceful guy, but I don't like bullies. Does anyone else want to vent their frustration on the staff? They all shook their heads like little kids. Just then, Ruobing walked out. The crowd started to stir again, but the fire was gone. She stood there, cold and commanding, her presence alone enough to quiet the room. I am Yang Ruobing, she announced. We are investigating the supplier. Every single person affected will be compensated. I give you my word. Her authority settled the matter. As the staff led the protesters inside to process their claims, I noticed a few guys dragging their unconscious leader toward a car. I didn't let them see me, but I slipped out the back and followed them. They drove to a secluded construction site. The big guy, whose name I learned was Sang Biao, finally woke up, clutching his stomach and groaning. That bastard. He kicks like a mule. Boss, what do we do? One of his lackeys asked. Manager Mo promised us 20,000 for starting that riot. We should go get our money. Manager Mo, the supplier. I leaned against a nearby pillar, hidden in the shadows, and waited. Half an hour later, a Toyota Camry pulled up. A man stepped out, Manager Mo. He was laughing, looking way too happy for someone whose products were hurting people. Biao, great job. The office is a madhouse. Mo cheered. It cost me a rib, Mo. Biao snapped, lifting his shirt to show a massive, dark bruise. I want another 10,000 for medical bills. Some kid at the door nearly killed me. Who would do that? Mo asked, eyes wide. Me, I said, stepping out from the darkness. Mo nearly jumped out of his skin. He recognized me from the office. Biao's eyes turned murderous. You have some nerve showing up here. Boys, break his legs. Four thugs surrounded me, pulling out knives. One guy, a punk with a buzz cut, stepped forward. You're dead, kid. Crawl through my legs, and maybe I'll let you live. I didn't say a word. I reached down, picked up a heavy red brick from a pile, and weighed it in my hand. Your breath stinks, I said. You should plug that hole. Before he could react, I blurred. I was in his face in a heartbeat. I slammed the brick sideways into his mouth. Teeth shattered. The brick snapped in half. He hit the dirt, gurgling through a broken jaw. Who's next? I asked. The other three charged. I grabbed 2 more bricks. One guy swung a knife. I parried his arm and smashed a brick into his temple. He went down like a sack of potatoes. I kicked the second guy in the groin so hard his eyes nearly popped out of his head. He collapsed, clutching himself, unable to even scream. Now it was just Sang Biao and Manager Mo. They were shaking, their faces pale as ghosts. Manager Mo, I smiled. Selling fake masks is a crime. You know that, right? I was just following orders, he stammered. I looked at Biao. Your boys are all down. You want to join them, or do you want to help me? Biao was a thug, but he wasn't stupid. What do you want? Use that brick, I said, pointing to one on the ground. Beat him until he tells me who hired him. Biao didn't hesitate. He grabbed the brick and started wailing on Mo. It didn't take long. Mo was a coward, not a soldier. Stop! Stop! Mo shrieked, blood streaming down his face. It was Zhang Yishan. He paid me to ruin Ruobing. Zhang Yishan, the father of the guy I'd sterilized. It made sense. I let Biao and his goons crawl away, but I kept Mo. I wasn't done. You cost my wife a lot of money today, Mo. How much are you going to pay to make this go away? 10,000, he whispered. I kicked him. Do I look like a beggar to you? 80,000. Make it 1,000,000, I said, tossing a brick up and catching it. And you're going to help me set up a meeting with your boss, Zhang Yishan. By 7 p.m., I was sitting in a luxury suite at the Pearl Hotel. Mo sat next to me, trembling. When the door opened, Zhang Yishan limped in on a cane. He saw me and froze. His face went through 5 stages of grief in 3 seconds. You, he hissed. Hey, old Zhang, I said, kicking my feet up on the table. Long time no see. How's the leg? He looked at Mo, then back at me. What is this? Mo told me everything, I said. You tried to tank my wife's company. That's a heavy debt, Zhang. You already lost your family line. Do you want to lose your other leg too? I slammed my hand on the table, and the force sent the plates rattling to the floor. Zhang flinched. He knew I was a lunatic who followed through on threats. Fine, he shouted, his voice cracking. What do you want? 3 million in damages, I said. And tomorrow, Mo goes to the press, admits the masks were tampered with by an outside party, and clears my wife's name. Do we have a deal? Zhang Yishan looked like he wanted to kill me, but he nodded. He transferred the money right then and there. I walked out of that hotel $3 million richer, feeling pretty good about my first day on the job. When I got home, Ruobing was slumped on the sofa, looking defeated. She thought she'd lost $1 million and her company's reputation. Hey, wife, I said, walking in with a grin. Have you eaten yet? I'm not in the mood, Lin Yuan, she snapped. The company is in trouble. This isn't the time for jokes. I just chuckled. She had no idea that her useless husband had just solved all her problems before dinner. You're late, Ruobing said, her voice trembling slightly. She realized she'd lost her cool and quickly lowered her gaze. I'm sorry. I'm just stressed. My tone was a bit harsh. Wife, are you still worrying about this morning? I asked. What do you think? There's nothing to worry about, I said, shrugging with a mischievous grin. The saying goes, things work out at the bridgehead. Maybe tomorrow someone will just admit they were wrong and offer to pay for the damages. Ruobing frowned, her eyes narrowing as she studied me. What do you mean by that? How about a bet? I teased, winking at her. A bet on what? If someone comes forward tomorrow to take responsibility and pay up, you have to give me a kiss. Ruabing rolled her eyes. You rogue. Rogue. Men aren't bad. Women don't love him. I shot back, using a bit of reverse psychology. Unless you're scared you'll lose? She let out a frustrated laugh. To her, this was a bet I couldn't possibly win. $1 million compensation claim? People usually run away from that kind of debt. They don't walk toward it. Fine, she snapped. It's a bet. If you win, I'll kiss you. But what if you lose? Then I'll kiss you instead. I joked. Drop dead. She grabbed a throw pillow and launched it at my head. The next morning, the sun was shining, but for Ruabing, it was just the start of another nightmare. She drove to the office expecting a mob of angry protesters at the gates. To her surprise, the entrance was deserted. She had just sat down at her desk to brainstorm a crisis plan when her assistant, Zhao Ying, burst into the room. Her face wasn't filled with panic, though. She was beaming. President Yang, look at the morning news. What happened? Ruabing asked, confused. Just watch, or you'll miss it. Ruabing clicked on the local news stream. There, on the screen, was Manager Mo from the skincare company. He was standing before a crowd of reporters, bowing deeply, publicly apologizing for the tampered masks, and stating he would take full responsibility for all financial losses. Ruabing's icy expression shattered into pure shock. He actually did it? We're so lucky, Zhaoing exclaimed. Why would a guy like Mo suddenly grow a conscience? I don't know, Ruabing whispered. But in the back of her mind, she remembered our bet. Her face began to flush a deep, rosy red. President Yang, why is your face so red? Oh, I just took the stairs. Too much exercise, Ruabing lied smoothly. Once Zhaoing left, Ruabing bit her lip. She wasn't stupid. I had been gone all day yesterday, and then I'd made that specific bet last night. She realized she'd been played. There was a knock at the door. It was me. President Yang, I have bad news. That guy is here. I called out, mocking a serious tone. I'm busy, she shouted back. I didn't listen. I pushed the door open, stepped inside, and clicked the lock behind me. I turned toward her with a predatory grin. Hey, wife. Busy with what? How many times do I have to tell you? Don't call me that at the office. She was fuming. Don't worry, the soundproofing in here is great. Now, you know why I'm here. You. She was speechless. She hadn't expected me to be this direct. What's wrong? You want to back out of the bet? I teased. We'll talk about this at home, she said, trying to look professional while her cheeks burned. Nobody's here. Just be proactive. I promise I won't resist. I wiggled my eyebrows. Resist your head. She balled her fists, shaking with anger. She knew I was thick-skinned, but this was a whole new level. I decided to play the rogue. I sat down on her sofa, crossed my legs, and spread my arms wide. Fine. If you don't kiss me, I'm not leaving this office. Ruabing was completely defeated by my shamelessness. Lin Yuan, I'm begging you. Can we please do this at home? At home? Okay, but then it's 2 kisses. 3, she barked. Don't push it, 4. You're horrible. Keep talking, and it'll be 5. I've got all day. Fine. 4, she hissed through gritted teeth. See? If you'd just agreed earlier, the price wouldn't have doubled. I stood up, looking triumphant. Just get out. I have work to do. She immediately reverted to her cold CEO persona. Sure thing. See you tonight. Don't forget, 4. I sauntered out of the office, leaving her staring at my back. She let out a soft, bitter laugh. That guy. He helps me out, and then acts like a total freak. What a weirdo. I headed back to my desk and resumed my work, which mostly consisted of playing card games on my computer. Zhaoing watched me from her desk, her eyes filled with judgment. She couldn't understand why a strict boss like Ruabing tolerated a lazy bum like me. Lin Yuan, don't you feel bad? Just sitting there idling your life away. I'm not idling, I said without looking up. I'm balancing labor and rest. Rest is all you do. You're not getting any younger. How are you ever going to find a wife if you're this aimless? Don't worry about me. Worry about yourself. At this rate, you'll be begging me to find you a boyfriend. I would never. She snapped. But the truth was, Zhao Ying's family was pressuring her to get married, and she hadn't found anyone she liked. Just then, her phone rang. It was an old college friend, Li Xiaoli. Ing. Great news, Xiaoli chirped. There's a class reunion tomorrow night in the city. You have to come. And guess what? Zhu Xiaobiao is coming too. He's doing really well for himself, and he's still obsessed with you. Give him a chance. Xiaoli, stop it. I don't like him, Zhaoying said, pouting. Too late. 7:30 at the Xiaoming Hotel. Be there. Xiaoli hung up before she could protest. Zhaoying groaned. Zhu Xiaobiao was a persistent pest she'd been trying to shake for years. She needed a fake boyfriend, and she needed one fast. Her eyes slowly drifted toward me. She looked me up and down. I wasn't bad looking, and I was already right there. Why are you staring at me like that? I asked, catching her eye. Are you secretly in love with me? In your dreams, she barked. She hesitated for a second, then softened her voice. Actually, Lin Yuan, are you free tomorrow night? Are you asking me out? Sorry, I'm busy. I knew exactly what she was doing. No one is nice to me without an ulterior motive. So many people want to date me, and you just say no without even thinking? She was insulted now, her voice getting louder. You're overstepping. The whole office turned to look at us. The other employees started whispering. Did Lin Yuan just reject Zhaoying? Is he crazy? What's the big deal? I said loudly. She's got a crush on me, but a man with my goals and ideals can't just say yes to anyone. I'm not that kind of guy. I don't have a crush on you, Zhaoying screamed, her face turning purple. I ignored her and went back to my game. She stomped her foot and walked away, fuming. But when the workday ended, she caught me near the exit. Lin Yuan, wait. She looked around to make sure no one was watching. Please, just this once. It's a reunion, and this guy won't leave me alone. I need you to pretend to be my boyfriend. No. Why? We're colleagues. You're just going to watch me suffer. Who was the one saying they'd never ask for my help this morning? I asked, enjoying this way too much. She bit her lip, looking desperate. She took a deep breath and grabbed my arm, hugging it against her chest. I felt a sudden, soft pressure against my skin that made my heart skip a beat. Please, big brother Lin. You're so handsome and kind-hearted. Just help me out. Her voice was like honey. I had to admit, when she wanted to be, this woman was dangerous. Hey, watch it. People might see, I said, though I didn't pull away. You'll ruin my reputation. Please. Fine. But on one condition. I've been coming in late and leaving early lately. You're in charge of the attendance records, right? She blinked, realizing my angle. You want me to mark you for full attendance? Exactly. No docked pay, and I'll be your boyfriend for the night. That's it. That's all you want. She was baffled. Most guys would want a real date or something more. She didn't realize that for me, this was just about helping a colleague while sticking it to a guy. Deal, she said. Half an hour later, I was back at the villa. Ruobing was on the sofa, her long, pale legs tucked elegantly to the side. Hey, wife. I'm home, I said, sitting right next to her. Why are you sitting so close? She asked, sliding away. You owe me for kisses. Come on. Don't hold back just because I'm a delicate flower. I closed my eyes and waited. Ruobing stared at me, her fists clenched as she fought the urge to punch me. You are so thick-skinned. I try, I said. She sighed. Tell me the truth. Did you have something to do with the mask company's apology? Do you really want to know? Yes. Kiss me, and I'll tell you. She grabbed a pillow and slammed it into my face. Go to hell, Lin Yuan. Murder. Help. My wife is killing me. I shouted, faking agony. She threw another pillow at me and huffed. You're so annoying. Well, now that you've got the aggression out, how about that kiss? I'm not in the mood. Maybe later. You're backing out? Don't you know the biggest inconvenience of a woman is her changeability? She just smirked at me, clearly enjoying the fact that I was the one frustrated for once. I decided to change the subject. Anyway, have you thought about opening your own factory? My own factory? Yeah, relying on other brands is risky. If you have your own production, no one can sabotage you like that again. I've thought about it, she admitted. But I need funding, a facility, and most importantly, a formula. I have a formula, I said. A traditional Chinese medicine recipe for skin whitening. All natural, zero side effects. She looked at me skeptically. Where did you get a formula like that? Family heirloom, I lied. I wasn't about to tell her I was the successor of a secret medical sect. I wanted a quiet life, not a complicated one. If it actually works, I'll take out a bank loan to start the factory tomorrow, she said. Wait here. I grabbed the keys to her Audi Q7 and sped off to a nearby pharmacy. 30 minutes later, I was back with a bag of herbs. I ground them into a fine powder, mixed them with a specific liquid base, and stirred until it became a smooth paste. A light, refreshing fragrance filled the room. That smells amazing, Ruobing said, her eyes widening. Give me your hand. She held out her pale, delicate hand. I took it in mine. Her skin was incredibly soft, like silk. I couldn't help but rub my thumb across her palm a few times. Slap. Be serious, she warned, though she didn't pull her hand away. Sorry, your skin is just really smooth. I used a spoon to apply a thin, even layer of the paste to the back of her hand. She gasped slightly. It's so cool. It feels like it's soaking right into the skin. Just wait, I said. The best part is yet to come. I watched with a confident smirk as the powder on the back of Ruobing's hand began to thicken into a mask. After about 20 minutes, I peeled it off. So, wife, how's the effect? I asked, looking quite pleased with myself. Ruobing stared at her hand, her eyes wide with disbelief. She compared her two hands. The one I'd treated was visibly fairer and smoother than the other. This is amazing. Are the ingredients expensive? The cost is only a few dozen yuan, I said. As a businesswoman, Ruobing immediately sensed a massive opportunity. A mask with results this obvious would sell for hundreds on the market. I'd only used half the bowl, meaning a few dozen yuan could produce 3 or 4 treatments. The profit margin was staggering. Got enough confidence to open that factory now? I teased. She nodded firmly. I do. We can't let a chance like this go. But the company's liquid capital is low. Starting from scratch would be too expensive. I heard a few skincare companies in Jiangcheng are on the verge of bankruptcy and will be auctioned soon. We should go take a look. Whatever you say, I replied. She paused, studying me with a serious expression. By the way, what did you actually do before this? You're great at fighting, and you know medicine. She was starting to realize she didn't understand her nominal husband at all. You really want to know? I grinned. Kiss me, and I'll tell you. Forget it. She stood up, grabbed the remaining powder, and headed upstairs. I'm going to use the rest of this. It's a waste to throw it away. Hey, can I borrow your Q7 tomorrow night? I need to look cool, I called out. She stopped on the stairs. She'd overheard Zhaoing asking me out earlier that day in the office. Even though our marriage was a contract, a strange, sour feeling twisted in her chest. Are you going on a date? She asked, her voice flat. What, you object? We agreed not to interfere in each other's private lives. The keys are in the drawer, she said, her face expressionless. She walked into her room, feeling a sudden, inexplicable sense of loss. I scratched my head, watching her door close. She was fine a second ago. Women are a total mystery. The next evening, I headed out for the university reunion. Zhaoing had messaged me a dozen times, reminding me to be on time. Around 7 p.m., I left my place. To make sure I didn't embarrass her, I'd swapped my usual rags for a clean casual outfit and tidied myself up. The private room at the hotel was already packed with people in their mid-20s. Most were struggling in the real world, but a few had found success. The class monitor, Zhu Xiubiao, was one of them. He was dressed in a sharp suit with leather shoes polished to a mirror shine, acting like some high-level executive. Xiaoying, I heard you're still at a small company, Zhu Xiubiao said, his voice dripping with arrogance. I happen to need an assistant. Come work for me. The pay will be way better. Thanks, but I'm happy where I am, Zhaoing replied politely. Think about it, he pressed. No need. I'm not looking to jump ship. Zhu Xiubiao's face darkened, but he maintained his gentlemanly facade. The other classmates started teasing them. Xiaoying, don't you get it? The monitor is trying to court you. Zhu Xiubiao smiled modestly, feeling proud. He figured once she worked for him, he'd be his in no time. But then, Zhaoing dropped a bomb. Actually, the main reason I don't want to leave is that my boyfriend works there too. The room went silent. The campus belle had a boyfriend? And they worked together? Zhu Xiubiao's eyes flashed with anger, though he hid it well. Where is he then? Someone asked. He should be here any minute, Zhaoing said, checking her watch. Just then, there was a knock at the door. I think that's him. The door opened. A waiter let a man into the room. I walked in, wearing my casual clothes, looking a bit rugged but sharp. I'd purposely left my hair a little messy to give off that bad boy vibe that women seem to love. "Hello, everyone," I said with a charming smile. "I'm Lin Yuan, Zhao Ying's boyfriend." "Wow, he's so handsome," the girls whispered. "Xiao Ying, you're so sneaky, keeping a guy like this to yourself." Zhao Ying blushed, looking at me with a mix of surprise and approval. I sat down next to her and immediately took her hand. "Sorry I'm late, babe." "You two are so sweet together," her friends teased. Zhao Ying forced a smile. She couldn't exactly pull her hand away in front of everyone. She leaned in and whispered through gritted teeth. "You pervert. Are you trying to die? You're taking advantage of me." "Shoo," I whispered back, nodding toward the side. "The monitor is staring us down. If we don't look in love, they'll know it's a fake. Just let me have this one." Zhao Ying glanced over and saw Zhu Xiubiao's face was practically black. She blushed and looked away. But then, I started rubbing my thumb across her palm. Her face turned bright red. She wanted to yell at me, but I was already looking away, chatting with someone else while my fingers kept moving. She bit her lip and decided to endure it. Dinner was served, and the atmosphere grew lively as people reminisced about college. Zhu Xiubiao stayed quiet, drinking his frustrations away. Suddenly, a scream erupted from the hallway. A girl named Xiao Li ran back into the room, looking terrified. "Help! Some drunks are harassing our classmates outside." "Who the hell do they think they are?" the guys shouted, acting tough. But before they could move, a group of thugs burst into the room. They were covered in tattoos and scars, smelling of cheap liquor. "Which one of you little punks said something?" a muscular guy barked. The tough classmates immediately went silent. The girl who had been harassed turned to Zhu Xiubiao. "Monitor, help us." Zhu Xiubiao cursed inwardly, but felt forced to stand up. "Gentlemen, I'm sure this is a misunderstanding. Please, have some restraint." "Misunderstanding? This bitch bumped into me and slapped me," the thug shouted. The girl cried out. "He tried to grope me. I only slapped him to get him off." Zhu Xiubiao tried to play diplomat. "Brother, how about I buy you a drink? Let's be friends." "Friends with your mother." The thug was drunk and impulsive. He swung his hand and landed a loud slap right across Zhu Xiubiao's face. Zhu Xiubiao stumbled back, his cheek burning. More than the pain, he felt the crushing humiliation of being slapped in front of his old classmates. "What are you looking at?" the thug growled, grabbing Zhu Xiubiao by the collar. "I'm one of Biao Ji's men. You want to die?" "Biao Ge? You mean?" sang Biao. Zhu Xiubiao asked, his voice trembling. "I know him. I've had dinner with him. We're on the same side." The thug paused. "You know my boss? What's your name?" "Zhu Xiubiao." "Call him, he'll tell you." The thug pulled out his phone and dialed. "Boss, there's a guy here named Zhu Xiubiao. Says he knows you." There was a pause. Then the thug's face twisted. "Who? Never heard of him." Zhu Xiubiao turned pale. "No, wait. You dare lie to me?" The thug roared and slapped him again, even harder. Zhu Xiubiao saw stars and collapsed into a chair. "Is there no law here?" Xiao Li shouted, standing up. "We're calling the police." "You've got a mouth on you, don't you?" The thug reached out to grab her. "Come have a drink with me." Zhao Ying couldn't take it anymore. She stepped forward and slapped the thug across the face. Hard. The thug froze. His eyes filled with pure rage. "You bitch. I'll kill you." He raised his massive hand and swung it toward her face. Zhao Ying squeezed her eyes shut, bracing for the impact. But the blow never came. Instead, a sharp cry of pain echoed through the room. "Hitting a woman? That's not very manly," I said, my voice calm and lazy. Zhao Ying opened her eyes. I was standing in front of her, holding the thug's wrist in a grip like iron. "You grandson of a let go." "My hand," the thug screamed. "Say one more word," I said, tightening my grip. "I'm sorry. Let go. It's breaking. Get lost." I kicked him in the chest, sending him flying backward into his friends. "What are you waiting for?" the thug yelled at his men. "Kill him." The other thugs charged. The classmates screamed and scrambled back. I didn't even blink. I grabbed 2 beer bottles from the table and stepped forward. Asterisk smash. Smash. Asterisk. 2 thugs went down, blood streaming from their heads. A third tried to sneak up behind me with a bottle of his own. I didn't even turn around. I just swung my broken bottle back, stopping the jagged glass an inch from his throat. The guy froze. Sweat poured down his face as the sharp edge nicked his skin. "You were going to hit me?" I asked, my eyes cold. No, brother. I was just practicing my iron head technique. Watch." The guy was so terrified, he actually smashed the bottle over his own head and knocked himself unconscious. In seconds, I'd taken out 3 of them. The leader, Changzi, was shaking with rage. "You're dead. Biao Gu will kill you for this." "Biao Gu?" I laughed. "Call him. Tell him Lin Yuan is looking for him." "Fine. Don't run away." He dialed the number again. "Changzi, what now?" Sang Biao's voice roared over the phone. "Boss, we got beaten up. You have to help us." "Who did it?" "A guy named Lin Yuan." The line went silent for a heartbeat. "Who? Say that name again." "Lin Yuan." Lin Yuan? You mean Brother Yuan?" Sang Biao's voice was suddenly trembling. He'd never forget the man who once handled a whole mob with nothing but a brick. I snatched the phone. "Biao Gu, your boys are causing trouble. I had to get a little rough. Hope you don't mind." "Brother Yuan, please, don't call me Biao Gu. You'll shorten my life. Just call me Little Biao." "Put that idiot back on the phone." I handed the phone to the trembling thug. "Changzi, you blind piece of trash." Sang Biao screamed so loud everyone in the room could hear it. "You dared to cross Brother Yuan? Apologize right now, or I'll throw you in the river myself tonight." Changzi's phone slipped from his hand. He looked at me, his knees turned to jelly, and he thudded onto the floor. "Brother Yuan, please. Have mercy. Don't beg me," I said, pointing to the girl he'd harassed. "You offended her." Changzi immediately turned and started slapping himself in the face. "I'm sorry. I'm a pig. Please forgive me." The girl was too stunned to do anything but nod for them to leave. The thugs scrambled out of the room like their lives depended on it. The room was silent. Then, everyone turned to look at me. The way they looked at me had completely changed. Zhu Xiaobiao had been humiliated, but I'd handled the whole situation without breaking a sweat. "Xiaoying, your boyfriend is incredible," the girls cheered. "If you ever break up, let us know." Xiaoying blushed, looking at me with a strange twinkle in her eye. "Quiet, you guys." Meanwhile, Zhu Xiaobiao sat in the corner, his face bruised and his heart filled with pure, bitter hatred. He had been the star of the night, and I had turned him into a joke. He stared at my back, his teeth clenched so hard they might break. This wasn't over. The little drama at the KTV didn't ruin the night. If anything, it gave Xiaoying a massive boost of confidence. Having me as her fake boyfriend had definitely earned her some serious face. An hour later, as everyone was settling the bill and heading out, I noticed Zhu Xiaobiao lingering by the entrance. He looked like a man who'd just swallowed a fly. He was desperate to win back some dignity, and when he saw Zhao Ying and me standing on the curb waiting for a taxi, he saw his chance. He purposely drove up in his brand-new Toyota Camry, the engine humming as he pulled up right in front of the group. "Whoa, Zhu Xiaobiao," one of the guys shouted, eyes wide. "You've only been working a few years, and you already bought a Camry? That's at least 200,000 yuan, right? Impressive. Most of our former classmates were just average working stiffs, so seeing a car like that was enough to make them green with envy." Zhu Xiaobiao's chest puffed out, his ego inflating by the second. "It's not that expensive," he said, waving a hand dismissively. "About 280,000 with the plates. It's just something to get me around." "Just something to get around? Man, we're heading the same way. Give me a lift," someone begged. "Sure, hop in," Zhu Xiaobiao said grandly. He was putting on a show, mostly for Zhao Ying's benefit. He glanced at her with a smug smile. "Ying, where are you headed? I can drop you off." "No thanks," Zhao Ying replied, her voice cold. She clearly hated his blatant flaunting. "We'll just take a taxi." "Ying, it's peak hour. It's impossible to catch a cab right now," Zhu Xiaobiao persisted. "I've got one seat left. I'll take you." He was being incredibly obvious. He was offering her a ride, but I was pointedly excluded. Zhao Ying's face darkened. She could hear the sarcasm dripping from his voice, but she tried to stay polite for the sake of their old-school ties. "No, I'll just wait with Lin Yuan. You should take the others." "How can I do that?" Zhu Xiaobiao acted like he was just being thoughtful, But then he turned his sights on me. Lin Yuan, you wouldn't really make our school beauty sit in a smelly taxi, would you? The air in those things is disgusting. Don't mistreat her. He let out a mocking laugh. I felt the corners of my mouth twitch into a lazy smile. It's fine. I brought my own car. Zhaoying looked at me, stunned. You have a car? She whispered. She obviously didn't think I was the car-owning type. Unfortunately, Zhu Xiaobiao caught her surprised reaction. He laughed even harder, convinced I was bluffing. Oh, you drove. Haha. What is it? A tiny cherry QQ worth a couple thousand. No, I said, shaking my head. Well, where is it? Let everyone see. It's not some knockoff brand, is it? He was relentless, riding high on his own arrogance. I don't think it's a knockoff, I said calmly. As for the brand, see for yourself. I reached into my pocket and pressed the unlock button on the key fob. Beep beep. In a dark, unassuming corner of the lot, a pair of sleek headlights flashed. Everyone turned to look. Their jaws didn't just drop, they practically hit the pavement. Holy crap, an Audi Q7. Wait, that's the luxury edition. That thing costs at least 800,000. The crowd went silent. They thought I was just some random guy, but I was rolling in a high-end SUV. This was the definition of low-key power. A few minutes later, I opened the door for Zhao Ying, and we drove off in the $80,000 beast, leaving Zhu Xiaobiao standing there in the exhaust fumes. His face was a mess of shifting emotions, his hands gripping his steering wheel so hard his knuckles turned white. It was a total slap in the face. He had tried to show off his little Toyota, only to be crushed by someone driving a car worth 4 times as much. His pride was in tatters, but his hatred was only growing. Lin Yuan, he hissed through gritted teeth. This isn't over. Just you wait. Inside the Q7, Zhaoying was laughing so hard she could barely breathe. You are terrible, using President Yang's car to show off like that. I'm dying. She had recognized the license plate almost immediately. She knew the car belonged to Ruobing, but she hadn't called me out in front of the others. A girl knows when to play along with the script. Hey, if we're going to act, we have to do it right, I said with a grin. But seriously, how did you get her to lend it to you? She asked, curious. She didn't lend it. I rented it. 1,000 yuan for the night. Can you believe how stingy our boss is? I was shamelessly throwing my wife under the bus to keep our secret safe. President Yang isn't stingy. Zhaoying defended her. She swindled $1,000 out of me. That's the definition of stingy. Not at all. Anyway, you can just expense the rental fee to me. Go to hell. I laughed. Mission Fake Boyfriend was officially over. I got back to the villa around 9 p.m. To my surprise, Ruobing was actually sitting in the living room watching TV. You're back, she said. It was the first time she'd ever initiated a greeting with me. I froze for a second before smiling. Oh yeah? I'm back. Weren't you on a date? It's still early, she asked, trying to sound casual. Heh, wife, are you jealous? No. Why would I be? She quickly made up an excuse. I was just worried you'd make a mess in my car. Seeing me come home early instead of staying out all night with Zhaoying seemed to relax her. Maybe she had realized she'd misunderstood our relationship. You mean? Car shaking? I teased. Vulgar. Ruobing rolled her eyes and stood up to head upstairs. She paused after a few steps. There's sweet soup in the kitchen. She didn't say another word and walked to her room. I looked at her retreating figure. She definitely seemed a little piqued. Wife, I called out. Actually, Zhaoying only asked me to go so I could play her fake boyfriend. Don't misunderstand. She paused for a fraction of a second, a tiny smile playing on her lips, but she didn't turn around. Wife, wait. Since I'm being so honest tonight, can I sleep on the bed? No. Damn it. The next morning at 10, the office was buzzing. Ruobing was dressed in her signature black and white professional attire. Her silk stockings accentuated her long, perfect legs, and her makeup was flawless, cool, elegant, and commanding. She looked every bit the Ice Queen CEO. She stood in the center of the office, calling everyone to attention. Even I stopped playing cards on my phone to listen. Everyone, the recent skincare mask incident cost us a lot, she began, her eyes scanning the room. It made me realize that if we want to grow, we need our own brand. We can't just be distributors forever. Are you planning to open our own factory, President Yang? Zhaoying asked. Yes. but we lack a facility and a formula. It's hard to compete in this market without them. I have a formula, Ruabing announced, and I own 100% of the patent. As for the factory, I've noticed several local companies are nearing bankruptcy and will be going up for auction soon. I want to use this opportunity to establish our own brand. She then brought out the herbal mask powder I had created and let the girls try it. The whitening effect was so immediate it left them speechless. President Yang, where did this come from? It's a miracle. Even the girls who didn't care about makeup were stunned. That's a secret, Ruabing said. She wasn't about to tell them it came from me. Now that you've seen the results, I need you all to research the companies up for auction. Find the one that fits us best. The office erupted in excitement. Everyone started digging for information. Ruabing then looked at me. Lin Yuan, come to my office. As she walked away, I leaned over to Zhaoying. Hey, lend me $1,000. Why? She asked, confused. The boss is probably coming for that rental fee. Get lost. I followed Ruabing into her office. You called, boss. The patent for that formula belongs to you, she said, getting straight to the point. I want you to hold 50% of the shares in the new company. She was being more than fair. Even though we were married on paper, she kept the business side of things very clear. I don't want a single cent, I said, shrugging. Why not? Because you're my wife. My money is yours, and your money is, well, still yours. She stared at me. This formula is worth tens of millions. You're not even a little bit heartbroken to give it away? Why would I be? Can you speak like a civilized person for once? She sighed, giving me a look. Hey, I'm a simple man. It's a habit. I rub my nose. But if you really want to give me something in return, I only have one condition. What is it? Can you stop making me sleep on the floor? My back is killing me. I'm worried I won't have any strength left in my waist soon. Ruabing was speechless. She could never quite figure out if I was being serious or just being a pervert. Finally, she just shook her head. Fine. Anyway, you're coming with me to the auction. I knew it. You feel safer with a steady, reliable man like me by your side, right? I said, feeling myself. No, I'm taking you because you're thick-skinned. You'll be useful when it's time to shout out bids. My face went blank. I wish I hadn't asked. Over the next few days, the whole company worked together to narrow down the targets. Ruabing settled on a company called Epine Skincare. The auction was held on Friday morning. I played chauffeur, driving Ruabing to the venue. When we pulled into the parking lot, it was already packed. Looks like we've got a lot of competition, wife, I noted. Stop chatting and find a spot. It's about to start, she urged, checking her watch. I found a space and we headed inside. Little did I know, a man was watching us from a Toyota Camry nearby. It was Zhu Xiaobiao. He had seen me driving, and he'd seen the stunning woman I was with. To him, she looked like a high-level CEO, and the person driving her was usually just the help. I knew it. Zhu Xiaobiao sneered to himself. I thought that Q7 was his, but he's just a damn driver. A chauffeur. His expression turned dark. What is he doing here? If they're here to bid, I'm going to ruin them. I had no idea I was being stalked. Ruabing and I found our seats in the crowded hall. Wife, how much cash do we actually have to play with? I whispered. She didn't speak, just held up 3 fingers. 3 million. I did some quick mental math. Between the money I'd squeezed out of manager Mo and Zhang Yishan, I had about 4 million. I wasn't planning on keeping it for myself. I'd use it to help my woman invest. 7 million was our real limit. As the auction began, I noticed a familiar face sitting a few rows over to my left. Zhu Xiaobiao. Crap, that guy was here to bid too. Men like him were a headache. If he got into a spiteful bidding war with us, things could get ugly. He caught my eye and gave me a look that was pure malice. Zhu Xiaobiao was actually there on behalf of his company, a foreign-owned cosmetics firm. They had their eye on a company called Wanfan Skincare. According to his analysis, it was worth about 10 million. His goal was to win the bid, and to screw me over in the process. The auctioneer started with some smaller companies. They went for around 3 million each. Then, it was time for the main event, Wanfan Skincare. The opening bid for Wanfan Skincare is 1 million yuan. Please begin. 2 million, someone shouted immediately. 3 million. 4 million. The price climbed rapidly. I leaned toward Ruabing. What's the market value for this one? Roughly 25 to 30 million, she whispered. No wonder everyone was fighting for it. Suddenly, Zhu Xiaobiao raised his hand. 20 million. The room went quiet. People turned to stare at him. He soaked up the attention, looking like he'd already won. 20 million once. 20 million twice. 25 million, a heavy-set man interrupted. Zhu Xiaobiao didn't even flinch. His company had given him a limit of 40 million. 26 million. 30 million, the fat man shouted, his face turning red. 35 million, Zhu Xiaobiao countered instantly. He gave the man a provocative look. The fat man sighed and shook his head. It was over his limit. 35 million once. 35 million twice. 35 million. The auctioneer was about to drop the hammer when I raised my sign. 36 million. The room erupted. Everyone turned to see who had the guts to jump in now. When Zhu Xiaobiao saw it was me, he nearly bit through his tongue. He wanted to mess with me, but he hadn't expected me to come after his target. Lin Yuan, are you crazy? Ruobing hissed. This isn't our target, and we don't have 36 million. Don't worry, wife. I know what I'm doing, I said with a confident grin. To be honest, 36 million was pocket change to me. After years of operating in Europe, I had plenty of private funds tucked away. But more importantly, I wanted to bleed Zhu Xiaobiao dry. If I forced him to spend every cent of his budget now, he wouldn't have the strength to fight us for the company we actually wanted later. If you mess this up, you're sleeping in the hallway for the rest of your life, Ruobing threatened. And if I succeed, do I get the bed? I winked. In your dreams. While we were bickering, Zhu Xiaobiao found his voice. 37 million. 38 million, I said without missing a beat. You. Zhu Xiaobiao was shaking. I was barely raising the price, just enough to keep him on the hook. 39 million. He was reaching his limit. 40 million, I said calmly. Zhu Xiaobiao was sweating now. His company's limit was 40 million, but they had given him a strict order to secure this company. He convinced himself that if he went slightly over, the bosses would understand. He looked at me, his eyes bloodshot with rage. 43 million, he screamed. 44 million, I replied instantly. 45 million. 46 million. 50 million. Zhu Xiaobiao had completely lost his mind. He was so focused on beating me, on ending my annoying 1 million yuan raises, that he stopped thinking. He stood there, panting, waiting for my next move. I looked at him, gave him a very strange, satisfied smile, and lowered my sign. I give up. I didn't just want to win. I wanted to break Zhu Xiaobiao. By tricking him into overspending by 10 million on a company he didn't even want, I had achieved my goal. He looked like he wanted to jump across the table and strangle me, but with so many people watching, he had to swallow his rage. I could practically see the gears turning in his head. He was already planning how to screw me over during the next round. A few minutes later, the auctioneer announced the next item, Epine Skincare. This was our real target. On paper, it was a disaster, heavily in debt and struggling to survive. Most investors wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole, which was exactly why Ruobing wanted it. Her budget was tight, and she needed a bargain. The starting bid for Epine Skincare is 1 million yuan, the auctioneer called out. The room stayed mostly silent. After a few half-hearted bids from people who clearly weren't interested, the price crawled up to 2 million. Now, wife, I whispered. Ruobing raised her sign with practiced elegance. 2.2 million. 2.2 million once. 2.2 million twice. 2.3 million, a voice boomed. It was Zhu Xiaobiao. He shot me a smug, provocative look. He wasn't even trying to hide it. He was purely there to sabotage us. Ruobing frowned, her fingers tightening on her sign. 2.4 million. 2.5. Zhu Xiaobiao countered instantly. He was mimicking my strategy from earlier, raising the bid by the smallest possible amount just to keep the pressure on. Ruobing bit her lip, her eyes flashing with frustration. He's doing this on purpose. My limit for this place is 3 million, but he's going to bleed us dry 10,000 at a time. I leaned in, a devious plan forming in my mind. If he wants it so bad, let him have it. Stop bidding. Ruobing looked at me like I'd grown a second head. Are you crazy? All our preparation will be for nothing. Trust me, I said, my voice full of confidence. Let him take the hit. Zhu Xiaobiao saw us whispering and laughed out loud. What's the matter, beautiful? Hit your limit already? I'm taking this company. Ruabing took a deep breath and straightened her back. A gentleman shouldn't take what others love, but since I'm a lady, I'll step aside. The company is yours. The smug grin on Zhu Xiubiao's face froze. He blinked, his eyes wide with sudden panic. He had only bid because he was certain we would keep going. He wanted to drive the price up and then bail at the last second to leave us with a massive bill. He never expected us to quit so early. He had already overspent his company's budget by 10 million on the last deal. If he dropped another 2.5 million on this junk company, his boss would skin him alive. He looked around the room, praying for someone, anyone, to outbid him. But Epine Skincare was a sinking ship. No one else wanted it. 2.5 million once, the auctioneer shouted. 2.5 million twice. Sold. The hammer fell. Zhu Xiubiao looked like he was about to faint. Congratulations, sir, the auctioneer smiled. Zhu Xiubiao stood up, his face turning a deep shade of purple. Wait. I changed my mind. I was just caught up in the moment. Can I take it back? The room erupted in laughter. People started pointing and whispering. Is this guy a clown? Someone muttered. He bids 2.5 million and then tries to back out like a child? Zhu Xiubiao wanted to crawl into a hole and die. The humiliation was unbearable, but the fear of his boss was worse. He chose to be a coward. I'm serious. I'm withdrawing my bid. The auctioneer sighed, looking disgusted. Fine, if you insist on withdrawing. He turned his gaze toward Ruabing. Ma'am, since the previous bidder has defaulted, would you like to honor your last bid of 2.4 million? Ruabing looked at me, finally realizing why I'd told her to stop. I had called his bluff perfectly. She nodded to the auctioneer. Yes, 2.4 million. Sold. To the lady in the front. We got the company for even less than we expected. I leaned back, catching Zhu Xiubiao's eye. I gave him a little wave and a thanks for the help gesture. He looked like he was going to have a stroke. Congratulations, wife, I whispered. She gave me a rare, genuine smile. I couldn't have done it without you. Maybe I'll let you sleep on the bed tonight. Really? No, just kidding. A week later, Ruabing and I drove out to the edge of Jiang City to inspect our new acquisition. The factory was in a rough part of town, known for crime and crumbling infrastructure. When we pulled up, it was worse than we imagined. The gates were unmanned, the buildings were decaying, and groups of workers were sitting around outside, gambling and smoking. An older man in his 50s, looking tired but honest, walked up to us. You must be President Jiang. I'm Lin Yuan, the factory manager. It was strange hearing my own name, but I just nodded. Ruabing, ever the professional, stepped forward. Her icy CEO persona was back in full force. Manager Lin, she said, her voice cutting through the humid air. I noticed your employees are playing cards instead of working. Do you not supervise them? Lin sighed. I try, but they know the factory is failing. They're only staying here to make sure they get their back pay before it shuts down. Ruabing's eyes narrowed. Gather everyone. I want to hold a meeting. 30 minutes later, the workers assembled in the courtyard. They looked at Ruabing with a mix of curiosity and contempt. She stood before them, looking every bit the powerful executive in her sharp business suit, her presence commanding silence. My name is Ruabing, and I am your new owner, she began. If I'm taking over, it means I'm taking responsibility for your wages. But, she paused, her gaze turning cold as steel. If you continue to work with this attitude, I don't need you. I will not pay people to sit around and play cards. A heavy-set man named Zhou stepped forward, sneering. Big words for a newcomer. We haven't been paid in 6 months. Give us our money, and we'll leave this dump. Ruabing didn't blink. Fine. If you want to leave, I'll pay you what you're owed right now. But if you stay, you work by my rules. She called her assistant, Linya, who arrived an hour later with a briefcase full of cash. Ruabing was playing hardball. She was purging the dead weight. About 20 workers, led by the loudmouthed Zhou, took their money and quit on the spot. Only 7 remained, including manager Lin. Once the quitters were gone, I stepped forward. Since you 7 decided to stay, President Jiang has a surprise. Your salaries are being increased by 30%, starting today. The remaining workers gasped, their faces lighting up with hope. Even Ruabing looked surprised, but she caught my wink and nodded. Is that true, President? Manager Lin asked, his voice trembling. Yes, she confirmed. I reward loyalty. As the disgruntled former employees shuffled away, grumbling about how they should have stayed, I pulled Ruobing aside. She looked a bit overwhelmed. Where are we getting the money for the raises and the renovations? She asked. I pulled out a bank card and handed it to her. There's 3 million on here. Consider it an investment. She stared at the card. Where did you get 3 million yuan, Lin Yuan? I gave her a tragic, soulful look. I sold my body. 1,000 yuan a night. It was a long, hard road, but I did it for us. She rolled her eyes so hard I thought they'd get stuck. Shut up and get in the car. Over the next week, we hit the ground running. I gave Ruobing the formula for a revolutionary whitening mask I'd developed. We branded it Ultra White and started production immediately. We only had enough funds for a small initial run of 400 masks. The real challenge wasn't making them, it was selling them. No one had heard of our brand, and the big department stores didn't want to give us shelf space. I found myself standing in a high-end mall with Zhao Ying, Ruobing's head of sales, waiting to meet a stubborn floor manager. It was time to see if my charms worked as well on retail executives as they did on my wife. Manager Xie, this ultra-white mask is incredible, Zhao Ying said, her voice filled with sincerity. It's all-natural Chinese medicine. No side effects. If you don't believe me, you can have someone test it right now. Manager Xie shrugged, looking unimpressed. Miss Zhao, it's not that I won't test it. It's just that I've never heard of your brand. We can't put unknown products on our shelves. You don't have to worry about that, Zhao Ying explained quickly. We've passed all the ISO quality certifications. There are 0 quality issues. Manager Xie let out a bitter laugh. Miss Zhao, don't take this the wrong way, but ISO certifications don't mean much these days. If you have enough money, you can get a certificate for a brick. I just don't trust new products that haven't proven themselves. Zhao Ying looked stuck. No matter how much she talked, he wasn't buying it. I'm a blunt man, so please don't be offended, Xie added, looking at his watch. I have a lot of work to handle. I think we're done here. He was being polite, but he was kicking us out. I understand, Zhao Ying said, her shoulders slumping. I hope we can work together in the future. She turned to me with a forced smile. Let's try the next department store. Okay, I said. But before we walked out the door, I turned back to Manager Xie. Manager Xie, your complexion looks a bit yellow. You should stop staying up late. It's not good for your heart condition. He froze. How? How did you know I have a heart condition? I just smiled. Just a friendly observation. Take care of yourself. We left the office, leaving him staring after us in shock. As we walked down the hall, Zhao Ying looked miserable. Lin Yuan, that's the 7th rejection today. Do we even have a chance? Where there's a will, there's a way, I said, shrugging. Suddenly, a panicked scream erupted behind us. Someone help. Call an ambulance. I spun around. A crowd was gathering outside Manager Xie's office. I saw him lying on the floor, his body rigid. I called 120, but traffic is backed up for miles, a worker cried out. Even if we carry him to the hospital, it'll take 30 minutes, an older woman added, her face pale. If he doesn't get help now, he's... She didn't finish the sentence. Manager Xie started foaming at the mouth, his limbs twitching violently. His face turned a ghastly, deathly white. It was a massive heart attack brought on by exhaustion. Lin Yuan, is he going to be okay? Zhao Ying grabbed my arm, her voice trembling. He'll be fine as long as I'm here, I said. I pushed through the crowd. Move aside. Let me see him. Are you a doctor, young man? Someone asked. Yes, I lied. I wasn't a doctor, but I was the 9th-generation successor of the medical saint sect. That was better than any medical degree. Oh, thank God. Please help him. Zhao Ying looked like she wanted to stop me. She knew I wasn't a doctor and was probably terrified we'd end up in jail if I failed. But I didn't give her a chance to speak. I reached into my pocket and pulled out a small, exquisite box made of aged sandalwood. I pulled out a silver needle, sterilized it with a flick of my wrist, and moved. My hands were a blur. I drove the needles into specific acupoints, Jianshi, Shuehai, Zusanli. If a master of traditional medicine had been there, their jaw would have hit the floor. My technique was flawless, a masterclass in ancient healing. Zhao Ying watched, her breath hitched, but as the minutes passed, her panic faded into awe. 20 minutes later, I pulled the last needle and wiped the sweat from my forehead. I let out a long breath. We caught it just in time. Slowly, the color returned to Manager Xie's face. His tremors stopped, and his breathing became deep and steady. Look, he's waking up, someone shouted. Manager Xie blinked his eyes open, looking confused. What happened to me? You collapsed, Manager Xie, the older woman said, pointing toward the door. Luckily, this gentleman saved you. Wait, where did he go? I was already halfway down the hall with Zhaoying. I didn't need a parade. Wait, Mr. Lin, please stay. Manager Xie's voice echoed behind us. I stopped and turned around. Is something wrong, Manager Xie? Please, he said, breathless as he caught up to us. Can we talk in my office? Properly this time. Sure, I said. Back in the office, the atmosphere was completely different. Manager Xie was still shaken, his eyes filled with genuine gratitude. Mr. Lin, thank you. If you hadn't stepped in, I'd be a corpse right now. It was nothing, I said with a light smile. Just a helping hand. Manager Xie took a deep breath. Mr. Lin, I've made a decision. We will stock your ultra-white masks in our stores immediately. I looked him straight in the eye. Manager Xie, if you're only doing this because I saved your life, I appreciate the gesture, but I'd rather decline. I want a real partnership, not a pity deal. He shook his head quickly. Don't misunderstand me. Part of it is gratitude, yes. But the main reason is you. A man with your skills and character wouldn't sell a bad product. I'm betting on you.